Hi guys, GoodGolf here and welcome back to another video on Unity and VR. This time we're going underground into a dungeon built with Mana Station's multi-story dungeons. I started the dungeon, so let's first see what ground we will be covering today. First, here is an example interaction when you hover your hand over a piece of paper and a sound is played. Next, we have a character in the dungeon who is going through random cycles of idle animations. This potion has a script attached to it, which makes it throwable. And last but not least, we will teleport towards a set of doors which can be opened if we stand on a trigger. The trigger is situated to the right of the table. Since we don't want the doors to close behind us, we can also put a lantern on the trigger so the doors remain open when we leave the trigger. Okay, now the demo is done, let's review the project piece by piece. First, let's give the credit for the dungeon where credit is due. This demo scene comes from the Mana Station's multi-story dungeons asset, which you can use to create these marvelous dungeons. It also contains an integration with Dungeon, which I will probably show at a later stage. The first thing I did was adding the StreamVR teleport points. I didn't want to do that manually for each tile, so I opened the floor prefabs and added the teleport points into the prefabs. That way you can easily get the jump points into your scene with little effort. And you can still make changes afterwards in the instantiated prefabs. The teleport area I did add manually. You simply place a plane just above the floor and add the SteamVR teleport area script to it. It's that simple. Technically you can of course also add these areas to the prefabs too. Making an object interactable can be done in multiple degrees of difficulty. Let's start with the easiest. I placed a prop, a piece of paper in this case, on the table and added an audio source to it. On the paper I added the SteamVR interactable and interactable hover event scripts. The sound is triggered by adding the audio source play method on the onHandoverBegin event. Next we move to the potion on the desk downstairs. I've added a rigid body and a capsule collider to the potion mesh, and by adding the SteamVR interactable scripts and the throwable script, you can now pick it up and throw it into the room. Again, very simple. Okay, let's take a look at the character from Synthes Studios Fantasy Character Pack. And look how you can add the random animations. In the animation controller, I first added an idle animation, and then we go to the sub state machine. That one has a script attached to it, which generates a random value for the idle NMID when the sub state machine is entered. Within the state machine, the various idle animations are linked to the entry and exit node, and all but the first are triggered using a condition for the different values of the idle NMID. Okay, let's move on to the doors. The trigger, a box collider with isTrigger set to true, sits on top of a teleport point. In order for the teleport beams not to be blocked by the collider, I added the SteamVR ignore teleport trace script to it. It also has a sound attached to it, which will play when the doors open and close. So this is what the script on the trigger looks like. We initialize the animator and the door sound components. In the onTrigger event, we check if it's either a player or a prop which is in the bounds of the trigger box using its tags. If so, then add 1 to the counter, which checks the number of items on the trigger. When it passes 1, going up, then the doors open and the sound is played. In the onTrigger exit, we do the opposite, and when the counter reaches 0, we close the doors. On the doors we put a controller which cycles through the 4 animations I created for these doors. Doors are closing, doors are opening, doors are open, doors are closing, and from doors are closing back to doors are closed. You can easily create these animations in Unity in the animation editor by adding keyframes and rotating the doors around their Y-axis. Don't forget to create an animation for the open and the close doors. These animations basically do nothing, but we need them for the state machine anyway. Now on to the last part, the lantern. I added a sphere collider to the lantern, and that's where we will be handling it. There's a hinge joint which connects this handle to the rigid body of the lantern 1 body. This way the lantern will swing around the handle as a pendulum if we move it around. The link I made is a little bit rough and it can be tweaked, but I wanted to show the idea, not the details. The lantern handle has the interactable script attached to it. I created the script with the necessary events. The script is still very simple, but can of course be expanded to suit your needs. In the hand hover update, it checks if the player wants to grab the object, basically attach it to the hand, and of course the reverse when you want to detach the object from the hand. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if so, then please vote it up. Thanks for watching and off to the next video.